Hi students, about conversation hour. I am Milko Álvaro from the Centre Cultural English teacher about Centre Cultural Federico Chueca. Well, exactly. Today, for example, we speak about a subject according with a family that try moving to a big city. Exactly. For example, imagine the situation, a family that came for a smaller city or from a village or from the countryside, and they try moving to a big city, probably a city with a lot of options according with a new job, according with a new life, according with different customs about what are the different probabilities exactly to find a house, normally a house or a flat, we can say a flat in a big city, exactly about according with a standard family. Well, normally, cities like Madrid, Barcelona, and other big cities offer many options or many variety of opportunities for everybody. Imagine, for example, that is common in our life that according with our emigrations in some periods of our history, there are many people from the country go to the cities to improve your lifestyle. In this case, what happened nowadays exactly? Imagine, for example, what are the options for a people that live in the country? Exactly. Well, normally, if you are young, exactly, if your family are not mature, the option to find a job is better if you are if you are older, or if you are not in an age to find so easy a job. Exactly. What happened in general? Exactly. If you are young, normally the option to find a good job, exactly, there are different sectors, probably to work in administration, to work in a factory, exactly, it's easier if you are older, exactly, and if you move all your family included kids, it's not so difficult to find probably a job, but the problem came when you need a house or a flat. All depend of your future job. If you have a good job, no problem. You have to find a house or a flat in a good area. If you don't have a good job, then probably you must live in a urban area, and the flat probably hasn't all commodities that in another house. The question in a city, living in a city, it's better, for example, for education for the kids. It's not the same, the education in a big city than in the countryside. Exactly, no? And probably the future about these kids, if you see the horizon, is better than in a countryside, exactly about that. Then the question nowadays is the price of the rent of renting a house in a big city. You cannot compare the prices between a big city or in the countryside, because normally in the countryside the renting of a house, normally inside a village or a farmhouse, it's cheaper than if you do in a big city. Probably the question is that the salary in the countryside is the same. What kind of job do you have? Normally is less than if you live in a big city, then the conditions are better in general. For example, what does it mean living in a big city? Normally, you have more services, exactly, more equipment. The education normally is a bit better than in the countryside. Normally, a question that is important nowadays is the sanitary paper. It's not the same. For example, if you have or if you are sick in the countryside, if you are sick, for example, in the big city, normally the question is that you have, for example, faster a calling to emergency in a big city than in the countryside. That is the question. There are people that say, oh, living in a countryside, normally you can breathe the environment, you have a calm life, but you must see exactly the the advantage and the disadvantage about that. Normally, if you are young and you live in the countryside, you have a good health, no problem. The problem is that happen nowadays in our life that a lot of retired people try living in the countryside, and the problem is when they have an accident or they have a serious sickness, the problem start very, very urgent about the situation. Then, for example, it's better normally to live in a big city that the sanitary you have closer. For example, at the moment to enjoy, for example, to see a good movie or to go, for example, a good theater, or for example, if you join in a good debate, or for example, to visit a interesting exhibition, it's very, very difficult to do the same in the countryside. Exactly, no? For example, that is the situation in general about that. The problem is exactly the style of life in the big city is not the same than in the countryside. The question is that you must adapt, for example, to the big city, and probably with the time, when the time pass, for a person that grew up in the city, it's really, really complicated to adapt to the countryside. Exactly about that. There are few cases about couples that many years living in a big city and finally they move to the countryside and decide definitely to live in the countryside, looking a new atmosphere, the environment, to to keep calm for this situation about. So nowadays, I think there are more advantages to living in a big city than in the countryside, despite the high prices of the renting that has. But if you balanced all conditions, there are more factors to live in a big city than, for example, in the countryside. Thanks. You can see this lesson in Educo channel. Thanks.